I'm Aditi Singh, founder, publisher, lead writer, and coach at Raising World Children. I believe in diversifying bookshelves and raising awareness of stories of belonging. And my story goes a long way back. But I love what I do. I love that we are creating stories that are helping kids understand who they are, see themselves in new lights, hopefully, uh, and entertain them, educate them. That's what it's all about. Uh, and- oh, yes. So, a little about me and my backstory and my experience with writing, because that is, I have to speak about that when it comes because finding that I want to write stories of belonging came from understanding what my voice is, what I'm most passionate about. Because as a writer, you need a topic which you can write endlessly on. And this is something that I realized that I have so much to say. Uh, so I started blogging when Orkut was a thing. And from there, that I was just doing it because, of course, you're on H4 visa, you can't get a job. So you're like, okay, my husband encouraged me. He's like, you love writing. Why don't you pursue that? And I had a whole community of bloggers that time. We were, sharing feedback and, improving our writing. And then did a few odd jobs here and there, whatever I could. And then I realized, no, I want to just pursue blogging and, grow in that. And I learned about freelance writing and I started doing freelance work. And I wrote a lot about my experiences and my experiences parenting. And slowly but surely, writing just about everything, because parenting is a huge chapter in our lives. It's one of the biggest chapters of our lives. And there is so much to talk about. And I had so many articles that were accepted by Huffington Post and Thrive and local magazines. But the most joy that I would get would be to talk about my own struggles and how they related to my kids. Because for those who don't know, I am an Indian raised in Kuwait. So I can pretty much understand when my kids say, oh, why do we have to celebrate this? Or why is this happening? Or why do I have to wear those itchy kurtas? And I could relate to that. I understand why my kids even today don't speak Hindi. There is a reason behind it. And I love sharing about that. And I saw that resonated with so many people because uh, my stories, even if I do say so myself, are unique in that perspective, wherein I come from a point of view of understanding what third culture kids go through. And I thought that was something I should be sharing. Raising World Children started because I understand also that my perspective alone is not enough. We started with 30 writers, and we used to publish articles every week, 3-4 articles. And then, of course, after 2 years, the eventual shift to publishing happened, and I realized picture books are a great way to engage with the core uh, identity of a person, because a child is when you're able to help them understand their identity, because bullying and people questioning you and language problems, everything happens all through your life. But developing who you are and developing your value system early is very important, and that is where I shifted. And I started writing about um stories about skin color, belonging, multilingualism. And then, of course, I started helping other writers do the same and create their own brands who were doing the same work I was doing in different facets. So it's been an exciting journey.
I didn't think it spoke to me. I've been blogging for over 20 years myself, and so what we had in those blogging communities was very special. Like people were very
Yes.
connected to each other. So I
Yes.
kind of like miss that connection sometimes, which is I think it just had more depth than the social likes. So I
Yes.
used to really enjoy that. And there's a lot that you were saying there. And earlier today, I was reading something from a life coach actually who talked about, in our lives as we grow, we're not always looking for success and money, but we're all trying to find ourselves and our identity. And to me, is very true in my current life as well, and more so as a parent. Um, and so, I would love to ask you, like, you've been on this journey a while, both from like a writer's perspective, as well as like, being a third culture kid yourself and raising kids in a different culture. What are some tips that you have for parents who want to raise or who are raising kids away from their heritage cultures and trying to give them, um, maybe parts of their culture, maybe parts of themselves? Like, what are some tips they should have so that the kids feel this sense of belonging?
So I get that a lot, and I have two books that help people. So first is completely written by me. This I would say is for kids 0 to 10, 0 to 10. Sorry, who are just born to 10 years old. Um, this is a collection of my most loved and most viral, as you would say, articles that resonated with a lot of people. It has tips on helping decision making and all that stuff. But for giving tips, when you are raising children that are outside your heritage country, the first thing I need to tell all parents is understand that they are not being raised in your culture, they're being raised in another culture. Their world is not the same as the one you grew up in. So that is going to be something that you need to be aware of when you're imparting your culture. I have said this in the book as well, that I feel a lot of parents don't understand that culture is kind of like sand. If you hold it super tight, it's going to come out of your hands. So you have to make sure that there's a balance of sharing your culture and not loading your culture. If people who understand will know what I'm trying to say, is be open about your struggles, be open about what traditions are and what culture is, and celebrate everything. But also understand that when being raised in another country, they're going to school, they're experiencing a world that is completely different from the one they have at home. And that is something as a parent, often I have seen parents not realize that, because they kind of like, oh, this is what our heritage is and you have to do this, which is great. I think it works when you have your whys in place. A lot of parents are fearful, and I know why parents are often very strict about it, because they fear that our heritage will get lost and our culture will get lost. But your children may miss one or two things, but they will never lose out their heritage completely if they're given the opportunity to explore everything and come back home to their life. So that is the mindset shift. This is not like a tip. This is more like a mindset shift that parents need to be doing. I was lucky in that regards, because I was, like I said, I'm a third culture kid, raised in Kuwait. And I never grew up around religion. I never grew up around cultural things, because my mom never had the time. She was very busy, just taking care of us and taking care of the people around us. There was never a load of, oh, I have to do this on Diwali, or I have to do this on Dashera. We celebrated the world and we celebrated everything. And I went to my Muslim friends' homes, and I went to my neighbors' homes who were Christians. And it was beautiful. And I enjoyed my culture even more, because that was what made me me. So yeah, that is a little bit about me and why that mindset shift is something that I really resonated with as a parent. Other tips I would say is, please diversify your bookshelves, learn about the world. The more you learn about the world, the better you will be in your parenting. uh, Read books yourself. I know it's not fun for some. Then read blogs. Like Raising World Children has tons of resources for parents who want to raise their kids. Uh, I mean, no matter what topic you Google, and I often get parents messaging me that, I'm having this problem, and I always have a resource handy which has actionable tips on it. So find a blog or magazine that you can relate with online. If you expect your children to read, guess what? You should be reading it yourself as well, because you cannot evolve your child without evolving yourself. So grow as a person, and it will uh, help you grow as a family as well. um, when you're raising your child in a different heritage culture, another thing I have to say is, lean into your heritage language as much as you can. This is a mistake I made, which I would love to share with everyone, because I didn't realize it. Uh, Being a third culture kid, my first language is English. So I often think in English. My husband also speaks in English most often to me, because he just responds, I guess. we never realized as parents that that was something we were supposed to be consciously doing. So, because our son is exposed everywhere in English, we didn't realize, oh, we need to speak in Hindi the whole time, because English he was bound to learn. You don't have to worry about it. Um, so that's something that parents should always do. Young parents should always make sure they do that. Stay in your heritage language. Don't worry that, oh, my kid will not know English. They will learn English. English is the most spoken language in the world currently. It is your heritage language. If you want to impart it as early as you start, is better. All that being said, it's never too late to learn. There are so many resources that are being created by myself and other creators that are helping kids bridge that gap. So it's never too late to start, and it's never a worry that, oh, like I have this book, Amaya's Two Worlds. It's about this girl who goes to India for the first time for a wedding, and she understands that, oh, having access to other languages is almost like a superpower. And it helps kids see. So many parents have come back to me saying, my kids speak more in their heritage language now because they want to be like Amaya. So, there are so many resources out there, so don't worry about it. Oh my God, I could go on endlessly, I think.
I love that because I think, just the description you had for your own childhood with, just getting exposed to world cultures or different religions. And, a lot of South Asian, um, I guess the heritage is like that, right? We have such intense diversity within our
Yes.
diaspora as well that I think that's great if you get exposed like that and don't sort of like box yourself into like one type of South Asian or whatever that is supposed to be. So I
Yes.
like having that diversity and getting children exposed to a lot more.
Yeah.
As you were sharing this, you said that, that made me, and that was like your culture somehow sort of, you enjoyed it more because that was special about you.
Yeah.
So that relates to identity, and I'm going to expand it a little bit and say that, children when they are very young, and I can say this as a toddler mom, that they start noticing differences very these conversations about race and identity, and why is it important, like why should we be proactively talking about this, because some parents actually don't talk about it, and we see how that sort of like matures as well. But what's your perspective on it?
I believe that we need to follow the child's lead. There is the minute the child asks a question, and this I believe for all questions, be it identity, belonging, sexuality, any kind of thing that comes up. If a child is asking you a question, please answer it. Do the research. If you don't know the answer about why something is happening or why someone follows a culture, ask that person or ask Google. We have Google for everything now. So, or Chat GPT for that matter. So you can ask the question and you can answer in an educated manner and age appropriate manner. I'm the first person to say, hey, you don't need to open the whole pitara, the box, as you would say, in front of a child. But there are age appropriate ways in which you can expose a child to various cultures and various traditions and various whys of things. And there's never a age limit to it, be it downwards or upwards. Because as an adult, even I'm learning now. Just a couple of days ago, I learned something, a tradition in Sikhism. So, you're constantly learning. So, always be unafraid to ask questions. And don't be afraid when your kids ask questions in a public place also, because that's kids being kids. It's fine. Just be open about it. And if the person is willing to answer, let them answer. Why is someone wearing a hijab? Why is that person's turban like that? These are very common questions. Most common questions which I have seen, and why I wrote How Our Skin Sparkles is, kids go to preschool, and if they're a minority, often there will be a day around when they're 3 or 4, they'll come home and they'll say, why is my skin color different than everyone else? Or why do I look different than everyone else? My book uses science and culture to help kids understand that. That is where I feel my resources are often a little bit apart, because I make sure that the science and culture is intermingled, because often people speak only about mythology, or people don't only speak about science, or people only speak about what their perspective is, or they don't. Mostly people don't speak, I feel. But there are great resources again out there to share with kids. So around 3, I think 3 4, when your kid comes up with the first question, I won't say to be proactive with things, only because when you're following a child's lead, it is much more easier for them to grasp concepts because they already have the question in their mind. If you're just bombarding them with information, they're going to get overwhelmed at a point, and then be like, oh, and the kids have the worst habit. All kids, and this is across all borders, they like educating other kids. So if they know something, they're often like, oh, my mom said this or my dad said this. So it is always better to follow their lead. So the minute they have an observation or they have a question, answer it in a way in which you are answering in an educated manner too, not just like making stuff up on the spot. Try to find a resource and try to find books that help with that as
Yeah, I like having that research backed approach, and
well.
I think
Yes.
it's also okay, like you were saying, if you don't know an answer, because there is
Yes.
going to be that situation. Also, because we are growing up in different cultures, like many parents are, right? So my questions as a child are not going to be the same as my child's, because just the atmosphere, the experiences are different. Okay, so I mean, you touched on some of your projects where you're, building all these resources and amazing books for kids and parents. But is there a new project you would like to share that you're very excited about?
Oh, I have two projects actually. One is actually a series of books that I'm coming out with, which is festivals. It's around festivals. It's going to be bilingual, so I will be starting with Hindi, and hopefully it'll go on to other languages as well with time and patience. But Hindi English will be first. And what sets this series apart is the focus is more about the why of celebrating something rather than the what. Because we have a lot of resources out there and beautiful ones that are sharing about the what. But I feel it is so important for our children who are in the now to be able to use the mythology, or the what is the point of the story of the mythology. Everyone might know the Prahlad story, but what is the point of the story? What do you learn from the story? So that is something I've tried to incorporate into the story. So I'm very excited about it to see the reaction of the people. So far, the alpha and beta readers have been very positive. So I'm very excited about what's to come with that. And the second book, it's been 3 years in the making, and I'm hoping to finish it this year. It's a book about the my experience. It's a fiction chapter book, loosely based on my experience through the Gulf War, because I was in Kuwait, and the invasion, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and things like that. So I'm hoping to finally finish it. It's been very hard to write it because it brings up a lot of memories, and a lot of them are fuzzy memories of a 10-year-old. So it requires a lot of research, and it's of course fictional also, because I wanted to develop a mother-daughter story. And sometimes I'm scared my mom is going to react very badly. So it's since it's very close to our family, I have to be very careful about the way I write things, and that's been a huge struggle. Most of the stories I write are very fun to write, but this one has been very emotionally difficult. But I'm excited to see what happens with it, and I hope to do it this year. But let's see. With everything that's happening, I'm not sure of. I feel books are just like babies; they come when their time is right. Yes.
Secret diary that also briefly touches on the Gulf War experiences. So, are there like others in the community that are writing, creating, and I know that you're connected with many whose
Oh.
work you would like to share that you're excited about?
I am excited about everyone I am in touch with, because so many of them are clients, to be honest. And of course, there's a huge bias towards that, because those projects are stemmed with our collaboration. And, I take great pride in, giving my all to all of these people. Uh, and I love, and they all inspire me with what they're doing. So it's kind of like a circle, because I want to make sure that their voice gets lifted up even higher. And I'm super excited. Anuja is coming out with a festival series book herself, which is super exciting because it's like about all the festivals that Indians celebrate, which a lot of people don't even know that Indians celebrate so many festivals. we have Balveen from Bilingual Bacha. Anuja is from Apni Heritage. Balveen is coming out with another bilingual book after her first one. Then Sangeeta's recent book, Sangeeta, she's an author, Sangeeta Narayan. She wrote a book recently. Meera makes aloo parathas. Mommy Dilraz Kunumal, she has come out with a breastfeeding book. She's coming out with a diversity book. I've not worked with her on those, but I worked with her on the first book, and so I'm super excited to read those books and see what they're all about. So it's wonderful to be inspired and share this platform because everyone's so collaborative and wants to lift each other's stories up, which is great.
Yeah. I love that because I think, I can't remember who put up a post saying collaboration over competition. And I think creativity is not competition because we all have different ideas. So I really love also sharing everyone's work because, first of all, it's so inspiring to see someone's perspective or twist on a story
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh, I need to do it differently too, or it might give me an idea that I haven't thought about because I feel that our children um, will thank us for all the work eventually when they get to understand what is being created. Because at least as a child, I didn't grow up with as many cultural or like even as many South Asian authors as I would have liked to. So now seeing this whole, there's tons of authors writing and creating, it feels very inspiring. And hopefully our next generation has more access to ideas that are, or ideas from people who might be like them. So that to me is inspiring as a parent as well.
Yeah.
More kids see you and they are like, okay, I want to be like Aditi and I want to write like her when I grow up. हम ऐसे बोलते थे कि writing is a hobby profession. एक government job
Yeah.
होगी और side में कोई writer होगा. So that I think needs to shift in my opinion to say that you could be a creative and that is a job itself. And you could,
Yes.
if that's what you're interested in, it could become who you are. And hopefully by meeting people like you and then sharing your work, we can make children believe that.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I have to say, I have to put a caveat there. I'm going to be brutally honest with anyone who wants to be a creative. So, if you want to be a creative in today's world, you need to realize that it takes a while before you find your voice. It takes a while before you make it, as they say. There is no quick fix. A lot of people who you have seen do quick fixes, they have had either a lot of resources at their hand to begin with, or they have cheated their way up, or they have found a hack, as you would say. But no matter what they have done, everyone still has to put their 100% in, no matter what they're doing. I was watching Guru Randhava's podcast interview a couple of days ago, and I loved this, and I would love to share that with everyone. Is that he wrote a song every single day growing up as a child,
Mhm.
because the day he would have an opportunity, whenever that happens, he wanted to have a set of songs that he could pitch to whoever would give him the opportunity. And that is something, as writers, you all should always have, is a set collection of ideas, a set collection of stories that you can always pitch to people. We have so many people, what, like, oh, I'm going to turn my 5-year-old into an author, or I'm going to turn my 5-year-old into a YouTuber, or 7-year-old. Make sure you help your kids understand their talent, understand the work that goes in, understand the craft. And once you've understood the craft, then break all the rules. Don't be like Aditi or be like, anyone else, or be like Upasana. Be you, and be you completely without fear, and do whatever you feel like. But make sure you put in the hard work.
No, but you know what? It's kind of also like,
I really feel like we need to, be very open about the struggle, because often people feel like, oh, it's so pretty and, it's so much fun to be an author. My friend's daughter, I think a couple of years ago, she said, oh, being an author is just writing books. I'm like, that's like 15% of the job.
not easy to write. I mean, you
Oh,
need so much more effort and you need so much like lived experience in order to do it in a way that it connects. So yeah, so any child who might hear this or parent, you do not become like a best-selling author in half a day. It just
yes,
requires days and days, years and years. And I think that's
yes,
important when you're honing a craft. And
yeah,
you also said this earlier, which I'm going to repeat for everyone when they're hearing this, that we are always learning. There's no end
yes,
point to it. So I
no,
hopefully kids or any writers are always learning and growing,
yes,
because how else do you improve your work, right? That's
yes.
the way to become more creative.
You cannot
And
You cannot become anything without understanding the basic rules and the basics of it, and honing your craft, and it takes daily work. So just make sure you're doing that and putting in the work. No one gets into publishing to make money. It's for the passion of the words. And if you make money, that's a humongous bonus. But of course, because we are putting our money, our energy, our time where our mouths are, where we believe in diversity, and we are creating the resources, because it's a lot of work. And it's painful because these are all our babies and we're so passionate about our work. So it's very painful also. So, it's like a snap of the fingers, and the highlight reel, as you said, because we tend to share that. Which is why at Raising World Children, you'll always see me talking about horrible things and my failures, and what I'm struggling with. And I applied for something and I didn't get it. In fact, my first reel of the year was about failures. So yeah,
But
keep
I mean, I
trying,
think,
keep failing.
failures are a good thing. Failures are
Yes,
the
I
only
love
thing you
failures.
learn with,
That
right?
means
I
I've
mean,
tried. I've
exactly.
tried. I know a lot of my friends must be saying, and uh, this is like a crazy thing to think, and I think it's a fact. I've tried so many jobs and failed at them. I tried teaching dancing. I tried doing questionnaires. I tried this and that, and applied for a job, got it, and I didn't enjoy it. And uh, part and parcel of life, you have to figure out what you want to do in your life, and because you have one life to live, reincarnation aside. So make the most of it and do what makes you feel happy. If not as your full-time job, because money is important, let's not kid ourselves. So if you can't do it as your full-time job, put it in the time later on. Do whatever fuels your fire. It doesn't have to make money. It should be from the heart, and it should make you happy. And that's what happiness is all about. Yeah.
Well, that's such a nice way to end this conversation, because I think belonging and happiness are connected. And when you feel like you belong, when you feel like you can be who you are, and be comfortable with that, this is what drives true happiness. And my hope is that, when people think about creative work, when they get inspired by creative work, they're also trying to see themselves, feel validated, and eventually hope to be inspired to just be happy. That's what we live for, and it's a nice way to have a bookend to this conversation. I really enjoyed it. Whenever I have conversations with people like you, Aditi, I'll say this: like, half of my head is hearing you as someone who's talking about a topic. Half of my head is always like a parent, because I'm like, oh, am I doing this? Am I not doing this? Because I'm definitely in that phase where I'm constantly in the mode of like, how can we all be better parents? What am I doing right, not right? Because it's just like it's a cycle of ups and downs. And a lot of parents who are raising kids outside of their heritage cultures have, like, different kinds of challenges. Hopefully when they hear this, they can feel that that is normal. We all fail in different ways, but also how to get resources and tips. And Raising World Kids is one of them. And I just encourage people to explore and see what can help them. And I appreciate your time.